Lochani Bandwana Bekosi, and welcome to yet another Tubersode of Show Bees Hive. And today's Tubersode marks the beginning of a very beautiful chapter and a new segment on the channel. A very raw, uncut, a very vulnerable segment of this channel. Now, I know that I had said that I wanted these new ideas that I have for this channel to be somewhat proper. It was and it still is my dream to have brought in a whole team that could get behind me and really help me to curate this content in a way that would make me happy in the way that I dream of it being presented. But yeah, after knocking to no avail, I just decided today, like literally maybe 10 minutes ago, that I am not gonna stop the vision that is in my heart, what I long, what I want to do, just because there isn't anyone out there who believes in me enough to invest in me to that extent where I'm at. And it's not to say it's a bad thing that nobody is willing to help me out, but it is a lot that I'm asking of people. Equipment, it is also their time. It's a huge investment in something that for them maybe they cannot see a clear vision as I do, and they don't have that nudge that I have. And it's completely understandable, and it is that understanding that led me to think that I'm doing well. I am doing what I can with what I have, which is something that I've always done ever since I started pursuing a life of intentionality and just doing the things that I want to do, doing the things that are in my heart. That's what I've always done. I did what I can with what I had. And all of the things that I'm proud of today are things that started out gloomy, musty, and I just didn't know what I was doing per se, but they always turned out great. At least they turned out better than I'd imagined. And so I thought, even with this, I'm going to trust the process. Also, I've been very encouraged by one YouTuber that I like very much, who is Bree. She goes by Bestie B on YouTube, and she was talking about. I watched a video of hers where she was talking about flow, and how doing the things that feel good to you and doing them in the most organic way can actually work out to be great for you. And so I was like, you know what, she's right. And that's how I've been able to put out the content that I have in the past few weeks, because I was like, if I'm taking a video of something or I'm out doing something and I feel like, oh, let me just make this a vlog, and then I did that and I had something to put out that week, and it felt good. It's flow. It's what I wanted to do. It felt right, and so I did it. And so even now, I'm just like, let me just start this segment, right? So, disclaimer, this is going to be a long video because there's this section of me venting and saying and pouring out my heart to you guys. And then there's going to be a whole segment of me talking about my journey with regards to this new segment. So our new segment is called Mommy and Me, another name that has also been inspired by flow. I really wanted to come up with some fancy name, something abstract, something that was but it just didn't make sense. So Mommy and Me, it just makes flow, it makes sense to me, it speaks to me. And the segment is going to be all about motherhood, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I hope to invite some of my friends or some people that I connect with on that level in terms of motherhood, who would like to be on the channel. Now, I don't know if this will or will not happen, but that is what I'm hoping will happen, that I will get a couple of friends to talk to them about motherhood, their journeys, and just their advice that they would give to you out there. And I'm coming to you today from a very vulnerable place because this is a very sacred thing for me. And I don't really think that I've spoken about my journey in motherhood in this capacity or in this context or in like so broadly. Whenever I talk about motherhood, it's always just brief, it's always those things that, it's not easy, it's hard, or it's the most beautiful thing, or kids are amazing. It's just in those short little conversations and short little encounters. And I haven't really sat down to speak about motherhood, my journey of motherhood, openly from beginning to where I'm at right now. And so I'm about to spill some tea. That's why the hoops had to come out, because I'm about to spill some tea, babes. But let me go see, did I even say Lochani and welcome? I don't know. There's just a whole lot that is happening in my head. But of course, before we go anywhere, let's go into the word. That is also going to be quite lengthy today, because the scripture I'm reading I didn't really search or whatever to find stories on motherhood in the Bible, but just out of the top of my head, I don't know a lot of stories about motherhood except for Mary, who was Jesus's mother. But besides that, there isn't much that you find in the Bible about motherhood. Now, as I've said, I didn't really go on a search or whatever. So if you know a whole lot that is in the Bible about motherhood, please do hit a sister up and let me know where I can find that material. But of course, moving forward, I will go on that quest to kind of search. But this scripture is something that I thought about and came up with as I am busy with something like some sort of research, and it just it's a small thing, and it's just something that I thought would contribute to what I'm exploring, which is the the mother wound, which is something that has been sitting with me for quite a while now. If even my play Nguma Beletago has a lot to say about that, and it's the theme of my life, I guess. But why I'm so passionate about this topic is because I really want to see mothers being free of mom guilt, of trauma, of pressure. Moms being free, and moms truly believing that what they're doing to raise their children is enough. I believe that every mother that is raising a child, be it alone, be it with your husband, be it with your family, be it in whatever context, we are all trying our best. That is, if you are invested in doing this and you want to do this, we are all trying our best, and it looks different for a lot of us. But I just want people to really believe that, that they are doing their best, because it's so easy as mothers to compare yourself and compare your journey and compare what you do, what you don't, compare your children to other people, and it makes you feel like maybe I could be doing more, but you're doing enough for where you're at. And that's kind of where this segment is coming from, to be like, to help people speak about their journeys and to kind of affirm them. So I feel like as you look back, then it will really make you understand that you really are doing your best. Okay, now I've just said a whole thing. I told you it's going to be lengthy. I told you. Anyway, we are going to be reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 21. It's the story of Hagar. So this is when, let's just read and then I'll get into it. I think it's gonna be quite lengthy. We're gonna read from verse 14 up until verse 21. So Abraham got up early the next morning, prepared food and a container of water, and strapped them on Hagar's shoulders. Then he sent her away with their son, and she wandered aimlessly in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water was gone, she put the boy in a shade of a bush. Then she went and sat down by herself about 100 yards away. I don't want to watch the boy die, she said, as she burst into tears. But God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven. Hagar, what's wrong? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Go to him, comfort him, for I will make a great nation from his descendants. Then God opened Hagar's eyes, and she saw a well full of water. She quickly filled her water container and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy as he grew in the wilderness. He became a skillful archer, and he settled in the wilderness of Paran. His mother arranged for him to marry a woman from the land of Egypt. Excuse the background noises. It is a holiday today. People are in their festivities, and I'm hoping that this music is not loud enough to get me copyrighted. But yeah, if it's distracting you, I'm really sorry about that. Hopefully you can still hear me and hear me clearly enough to keep up. So here we find Hagar after Sarah has chased her away from their home because she was jealous of, Ishmael. So for those of you who don't know the story, when Sarah realized that she's not having any babies, she took matters in her own hands and suggested that Abram, her husband, sleep with one of her servants so that they could have a son through Hagar. Now, when Hagar was pregnant, Hagar started getting a bit sassy towards Sarah, which I don't know why women in the Bible are so boastful about, motherhood. It is a great gift, but they just become so weird about it. Anyway, I digress. Then Sarah started treating Hagar poorly at some point, and Hagar left. And then Hagar came back because God was like, you better go back because you're pregnant. And then she had the child. And then later on, as we know, God promises Sarah to give her a child, and then God delivers. And now once Sarah has her own child, she kind of feels like, I don't want my child to share his inheritance with this child that she, by the way, is the cause of why she's there. But anyway, and so Abraham gets up and is like, my wife is not digging the situation anymore, the setup, so you got to go. Literally, Abraham gets up early, prepares food in a container and water, and just says you can go. Like, that's all he gives to them. Like, that's all he gives them that's all he gives Hagar to raise a child. Wild. But anyway, why I chose this story in the Bible is because of how Hagar they just roam around the wilderness, not knowing where to go, until this little package that they left with from Abraham's house runs out, and Hagar is in complete distress and is like, you know what, I'm just going to put the baby over there because I don't want to watch him suffer and die. So I'm just going to put him way over there and not have to see him die. And then she walks away, and Ishmael is just there crying and crying and crying, and this crying gets the attention of the angel, and the angel comes and is like, what are you doing, sis? Like, why are you doing this? And suddenly her eyes open up to the well, and she then, and then eventually their lives come together. And so that's a mother wound. And a lot of the times it made me realize that Hagar didn't put her child there, her son there, because she didn't want him anymore, hated him. But it was because she just couldn't bear seeing her child going through pain and trauma, But that doesn't mean that her leaving the child there on its own, abandoning it in some sort of way, didn't cause any trauma as well, And so it came to tell me that there is a lot as mothers that we put our children through. There's a lot that our mothers put us through that they thought would be the best. It was out of, what they thought would be the best at their time, but it might have just increased our pain and our trauma, but it really didn't come from a bad place. But also what I like about this is that from that mother wound, from being abandoned now by the mother, Ishmael starts crying out, right? And that cry, him crying out, is what saves both of them. You know, it saves both of them, because yes, Hagar put the child there, and she might have been able to live longer without, drinking the water longer than the child. But eventually, she was also gonna die. But now, because of this child crying, it saved both of them. So it also just shows that how we fix that mother wound, or how we find ways to heal ourselves, could inform a better relationship with our mothers, a better relationship with our children. Which is what I hope that this segment will do, that through reflecting and talking on our experiences as mothers, then we will be able to find all the things that hurt us from our upbringing and our relationships with our mothers, and then we would be able to trace that back, and it will be an undoing, and actually realize how much of that is influencing the way that we parent our children. And so yes, that is the word. Now to get into my testimony, my story, how I became a mother, how it's been, how it's going, and just my thoughts on motherhood. So I fell pregnant when I was 19, 20. I fell pregnant when I was 20. I was in my first year. Yeah, first year was wild. But yeah, let's not get into all that. That's a story for another day. So I was doing my first year when I fell pregnant, and it was in towards the end of my first year, and yeah, it was an interesting time in my life. It was quite an interesting time in my life. The enemy was having a ball in my life, to say the least. Like, the enemy was having a lot of fun in my life. Ow, this hurts now. So yeah, so then I fall pregnant around August, September. I fall pregnant, and I spend the last half of school just having found out that I'm pregnant, right? So okay, how did that look like? So I had, so when I came to school, when I started school, I was like, yes, freedom, as we all do when we are getting into university. And yeah, I was just wild. I was doing all the things, and then I met my boyfriend, and boyfriend at the time, and baby daddy, who is now my husband. That's another story for another day. Yes, I am married customarily, and that is just God's grace as well. But anyway, I digress. So my boyfriend at the time and baby daddy, I meet him in February of 2016, which is when I fell pregnant. And yeah, man, we just, we're vibing. It's fine. It's nice. It's cute. Young love, So then I fall pregnant towards the end of the year. Now, it was probably like 4-5 months into our relationship, and I don't know about him, but I wasn't taking things that seriously. I loved him, and I enjoyed, what we had, but I hadn't thought about it in a level of, would this be my forever person? At that point, it was just having fun, getting to know one another, and all the things. And so when this happens, it's like, what? What? But at that point, I'm like, okay, that's what happens. That's what happens when you do adult activities. You get adult results. So there you go, ma'am. And all this to say, not to say that that's how I handled it, and that was that. Of course, I was scared. Of course, I was like, what happens now? I just started school, and I'm in drama school, by the way. And so, drama school, you use your body. So I'm like, okay, so what is this gonna look like now? Because, wow, you know. Him, on the other hand, he was freaked out, guys. So when I found out, I'm kind of freaked out, and I'm also just thinking, okay, what am I gonna do? But I'm like, okay, well, we'll see, we'll figure it out. But it is what it is. That was my standpoint when I find out. Him, on the other hand, was terrified, guys. Now he never told this to me. Like when I brought the news to him, we processed it calmly. He's a very calm guy. He's the calm to my storm. We processed through it calmly, and we just like, damn, this is not great, but okay, that's how he tried to paint it to me. But I could tell that dude is freaked out. And as the days progressed, I understood why he was freaked out, because he comes from a Christian home, and he just got a girl pregnant out of wedlock. And for me also, I had a concern because I'm a worship leader. At that point, I'm a worship leader at church. Although I was in school and I wasn't, serving as much in my home church, but like whenever I did go home, and because like home and school was not that far, like I would go maybe every month or maybe even twice a month. So I was still at church quite frequently, and I was a worship leader, and now I'm pregnant. Mind you, I'd always been the wild child at church, the special case. I was always the one that was set down interventions to be like, dude, this is not how you need to be behaving. And then now I'm pregnant. So you can imagine. So yeah, that happens. I'm just, for the first 3 months, I'm just like, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not telling my parents. I'm just going to sit with this. And I mean, obviously in December, I need to go home, and I was thinking it would be showing by then anyway. Hey, that's how I wanted it to happen. That by the time I go home, it will be showing. I don't have to tell anyone that I'm pregnant, because everyone is going to see that I'm pregnant. And somehow, I don't know how, I thought that would be great, and nobody would ask me how, or what's going to happen, or whatever. I just thought it would be, oh, you're pregnant, yay, or nay, or whatever the case would have been. But I was just like, I'm not having this conversation. I was just not ready to have the conversation. So me and him, yeah, we would just took our time adjusting to that whole scenario. And yeah, we went for scans, found out it was a boy, so we went through the motions, warming up to the idea. Well, not really warming up, we were still pretty freaked out. Thank goodness he's working, but he's not in the best space to be having a baby. So yeah, okay, well, we figured that out. Then I go home in December, but I'm still not showing. My belly did not show until probably maybe the last 2 months. I think the last 2 months, that's when everyone saw that I was pregnant. But before that, I don't think anyone would have known unless I told them, because like my belly was pretty, it respected the fact that I wasn't supposed to be pregnant. So yeah, so then it's December, my belly's still not showing, but my mom, moms know these things. I can tell that she can see. In fact, there was a time she came to see me at Ray's, and she could just see, I could see that she sees that. And at that time, it was the first trimester. It was a mess, morning sickness. I didn't want to eat anything. I didn't like anything. I only liked eating fruits, specifically peaches. So she came, and when she came, then we were busy. I don't know what we were doing. She was shopping, we were looking for something, we were busy walking around a lot. And then she's like, oh, we should get something to eat because we've been up and down and I'm sure you're tired. And she's like, what are we gonna eat? And I'm like, I don't really feel like eating anything. I hardly eat anything these days except for peaches. And she looks at me funny. I am so sorry about that, y'all. My battery died and my light died. So also sorry about the lighting changes, but my light just died as well. But I'll just go on with my story. So then my mom is looking at me like, girl, what's going on with you? I know you love you some food. Like, you're not gonna say no to me getting you food. But yeah. And then I finally go home December, and my belly is still not really showing. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to have this conversation that I've been avoiding, right? Oh guys, I'm so heartbroken about the lighting, but I hope you guys can still see me. Okay, cool. So I'm telling myself I need to tell my mom this, and this other day when I was hyping myself up to tell her all day and I still couldn't do it, then at night she's like, good night, I'm going to sleep. I'm like, you know what, I need to do this. So maybe she's just gotten into bed, then I go into my bedroom. I had already started going to the clinic for my prenatal care, and so I'm like, you know what, I'll just give her this file, then I won't have to actually like say it, you know. Cool. So then I take the file, I go into the room, and then I just throw the file on the bed. And then she gets up, and then she sees the file, she takes the file, and then she's like, what's this? And I'm like, well, it's written on the thing what that is. And then she's like, so I'm like, okay, so she wants me to say it. And I'm like, well, I'm pregnant. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, OMG. And I'm like, I know. I didn't say all this, honestly. Like, after saying I'm pregnant, I was just quiet the whole time, just looking at her. And she's like, okay, well, I guess you're grown. And looks like you're having this baby. You're already going to the clinic. Like, basically what she was saying is, it looks like you don't really have nothing. I don't really have to say nothing to you, you know. You were just letting me know for the sake of letting me know. So it is what it is. And then she asked me who the dude was. I tell her who the dude was, and she's like, is the dude working? And I'm like, yeah, the dude is working. It's like, okay, well, at least the dude is working, so you guys can take care of y'all's baby. And I'm like, yeah. You know, cool. The next day she tells my dad. Now my dad is a pretty chill guy, right? But I mean, your first daughter, your only daughter, is pregnant, so I was still quite nervous, you know, in as much as my mom was kind of like the hard wall that I had to get past with this news. But I was quite worried about how my dad is going to take this. So then my mom tells him, and my dad is like, oh, what? Okay. He is sort of taken aback, obviously, but yeah, well, what can you say, really, you know? Cool. So now everyone in the house knows, and then, you know, I have to decide, am I going back to school? What's going to happen? So we have a sit down and a chat about that. I'm like, I want to stay in school. I really did want to stay in school. I enjoyed school. I was doing what I loved, but obviously going to school was going to change for me because I was in drama school and I was pregnant, so that affected my body, obviously. So there were those concerns. So they're like, okay, cool, if you want to go to school, that's cool. We'll just find out when the years start if you can, like if they'll have you. And I was like, okay, cool, yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So it was that I was pregnant, they knew. And it was pretty hard, guys. Even church, I remember we had a December conference at church. And um I mean, I wasn't showing like I'm saying, but I was pregnant. At that point, I was like 5 months, I think, 5 months, 6 months pregnant. So I was pregnant. And um yeah, at the beginning of my pregnancy, I had this nice glow. I looked pretty. But when I was getting into the second trimester, my nose was getting big. I was getting pimples. All the problems of my skin, they come from my pregnancy. All these spots that you're seeing, they come from it. I never had a problem with skin before. But after having a kid, yeah, it was just, this is my reality now. Um, but I do have a lot to do with that. I pop my pimples, guys. It's a very bad habit. Don't do it. But yeah, just having pimples. I was never someone who was acne prone until after my pregnancy. But anyway, I digress. Um, at church, I remember we had this conference. That's what I was saying. And then, like walking in, like I could feel that people were talking about me, and I think at that time, maybe the word had gone around, the rumors had started going around that I was pregnant or whatever. But I remember like walking into the churchyard and literally feeling that, people are talking about me, and that was not an easy thing. But I'm glad that even during that time, my pregnancy, I held on to God. I held on to my faith, which is one thing that I'm very proud of in my life. I'm not proud of the majority of my faith walk before the season that I'm in now, which is really cultivating my relationship with God and really allowing God to work in my life. But now, I was saved when I was 13, guys. So you get Musne, so adolescents and all of those things. I was saved, but you can imagine what the enemy was doing there. So I'm just glad that through all of those seasons, all of that time when I was just figuring my life out. And mind you, I don't come from a Christian family, so I didn't really have a direct in contact person to really guide me through the life of a Christian or whatever. So I think we're really losing light. So I'm just gonna fast track. So now it comes to my second year. I'm very pregnant. I'm told I need to drop 2 of my modules, and that now affects my plan because I've said that I went to TUT. So I wanted a degree, but now I couldn't really do my fourth year because it was the last year to um, 2020. No, 2019 was the last year. They were gonna phase out BTech, so the degree, it was gonna be phased out. And now I had an extra year. 2019 was gonna be my extra. It was supposed to be the year it was the final year to do BTech. And because I'm pregnant and these modules that I'm not doing anymore, they had to move up to 2019. That means I can't get my degree. Then I would have to walk out with a diploma. So that was not really nice. Also, my dad left work, and after leaving work, he invested all the money that he'd worked for in his lifetime into something that he really thought was going to be fruitful, but then it wasn't. And so there was that. And so there was a lot of things that could have caused me to leave school, but I didn't allow that to happen. I tried to get NSFAS, and by the grace of God, I was able to get it. It was like in the middle of the year of my second year when I was heavily pregnant. I remember when I got approved for NSFAS, I was like, I think a month away from giving birth. So hectic, right? But then my baby came, guys, and God made a way. God made a way, and He was the light of my life. He's always been the light of my life. he was a light in our world, out of all those crazy things that were happening in the year that he was born, because that was a very hectic year. Like anyone in my family can tell you that year, it was a hard year, but we got through it, and we just keep making it through all the difficult circumstances. All of that, we just keep making it through by the grace of God. And today, my son is turning 6 in the next month, and he's just the light of my life and the joy of my world. And I love him with all that I am, and everything that I do is to make his life better, is to make sure that he doesn't have to go through half the things that I've gone through. And I'm proud to be his mom. And having him has really helped me also work through a lot of things with my mom, because I didn't want that to affect the way that I mother him. And it really made me the person that I am today. And I'm so grateful. It's the thing that made me want to walk this faith walk in the right way, the way God wanted me to do it. It's the thing that made me want to fight in my career and do better and do best, because I have a little human being that I need to provide for. And so it's been amazing, man, and I'm really grateful. And I think because I'm losing light, and I think it's been a long one, I will just get into the nitty-gritties of everything, the challenges facing the church, being a worship leader facing the church with this big belly, how that felt, how that went, maybe in detail, and just raising a baby at home, because that's also another pandemic. Having a child while you're still in your parents' home is really, it's not an easy thing. All of that, how I navigated through that, raising a child, and all of that. I think I'll get into that on our next Tubersode on this segment. But I really hope that you enjoyed this, and if you did, please like it, comment, and share how what it brings up, what you think, and subscribe if you're digging the vibes. Share it with anyone that you think it will be helpful to. But this is just to affirm, new mothers, old mothers, mothers, that you're doing great, and God is with you. And we need you. We need mothers in this world. We need the heart of a mother in this world. And so, which is why I wanted to start this segment of the channel and just affirm moms out there and encourage moms out there, and just to say it may not look perfect. It may not look the way that you had dreamt maybe when you were a girl, how your motherhood would look like. It may not be all of that, but you're doing the best with what you have, right? Since we are on that theme, we'll run with that theme. Happy Mother's Month. This is why I did this also, because it is the month where we're gonna have Mother's Day. And I hope you are affirmed, you are celebrated, and you understand how important you are. I love you all so much. Remember to spread love, light, and positivity. See you on the next Tubersode.